basically I get 4 plasma transfusions a month.
Oh
I've
my gosh.
I definitely, it's not a fun journey. So anyone that I can help avoid it, I would love to do so.
Yeah, thank you so much. One thing that I like to say is all my guests and all my listeners are healers themselves because we all have the power to heal ourselves.
That's beautiful.
So I'm curious, so you were a professional skier, and then out of nowhere the Lyme disease kind of derails that. Do you have any idea where the Lyme came from or what caused it?
You know, I have no so I live in Denver, Colorado. Like you said, now I'm a real estate agent. Completely different world than my previous life of skiing 300 days a year around the globe. So I've never even seen a tick. And obviously Lyme disease is a tick-borne illness. So I have no memory of actually being bit by a tick or even seeing a tick. I
Hmm.
did. I lived in Uganda when I graduated college, and I was teaching sustainable farming practices, which is, I know, completely off grid from everything else I did, but it was a wonderful experience. But one of the co-infections that I got with Lyme disease, I got two. They're called Bartonella and babesiosis. And babesiosis is extremely common in Uganda. It's very malaria-like.
Hmm.
And it has the same cellular structure as Lyme in the way that it screws into your cells and it has the ability to pass through the blood-brain barrier. So that's
Hmm.
what makes these illnesses so hard to combat and to fight. And what's interesting about Lyme is basically it affects everyone differently.
Hmm.
And if it's chronic Lyme, so if you're aware that you were bit by a tick, and you should probably go to a doctor and go get it, 2 weeks of doxycycline and it'll kick it out of your system. Don't have, knock on wood to worry about it. Unfortunately, I think 70% of people that do have Lyme have no idea when they were bit. So if you don't know when, then obviously you can't do anything about it at the time. But it kind of lays dormant in your system until there is something that weakens your immune system enough that Lyme can take over. And like I said, I was just at the end of my ski career. I was actually, I would say in retirement, but I never really learned how to. I've got zero, I've got 100. I don't know the in between. So sure enough, I was doing a backflip in the backcountry and landed on my neck and broke my neck,
Oh my God.
cervical spine, and actually I should say I tore multiple discs in my neck. I didn't break my neck.
Hmm.
But I had neck surgery, and that unfortunately was what allowed Lyme to take over in my system.
Oh my gosh. So before, just real quick, before
Yeah.
you were diagnosed, you were doing like backflips off like huge jumps and stuff.
I mean, I was the most active human you could imagine. Like my sport was slope style and half pipe. So I did X Games. I literally traveled the world competing for 10 years.
You were in the X Games.
Yeah, I unfortunately blew my knee in pre-quals, but I was in X Games. So that
That
was
is
pretty
rad.
cool. Yeah, and I was young, and at the time, like I say, it's all of these little things. I also believe that attribute to how your immune system reacts and how your nervous system reacts to something like infection. And
Hmm.
with skiing, I believe 15 surgeries. So that's 15 times that I was under anesthesia, on antibiotics, all things that I now know, affect your system for a long period of time. So having that awareness.
Mm.
I also had breast implants, and breast implant illness is something that I think is not talked about very often. It's a little bit of a taboo subject, but when you have autoimmune diseases and you put something foreign into your body, I mean, I didn't have autoimmune at the time, But I was lucky enough to come across a specialist, Dr. Kevin Brenner. He was like Dr. 90210, who did the majority of implants in the universe, that realized that a lot of his patients were getting coming back with really strange illnesses, and started doing serious research. And I was lucky to come across him after I was diagnosed with Lyme. But I mean, I could ski from, I would get up at 5, go to the gym for 2 hours for like a nice warm up pre-mountain, be on the first lift at 8 a.m., ski until 4, go back to the gym for dryland training for a couple of hours, and then go out and be social. Now my life consists of, I mean, truly trying to get through every step of each day. And I'm very fortunate that I always say I'm the luckiest sick person, because I have found what tools and I like to say, like, you know, when you're your own health advocate, you have to find what tools in your toolkit are going to get you through
Hmm.
each day, and realize that each little thing that we do is, you have to take as a win. Because going from someone who was active, a good 15 hours a day, to some, I would like to, I think if my body would probably hibernate for years if it had the choice. But I'm extremely fortunate that I have a career I love so much, because it keeps me goal oriented and it keeps me moving forward. And I think the key, like you said, we all have these abilities within us to heal,
Hmm.
and you really have to find those small wins and those healing elements in your life that are going to keep you pushing forward. Because I think when you are told that, I can't tell you how many doctors have said, well, most people that are dealing with the diseases you are on bed rest. And I think about that, and I'm like, I would be the most depressed human alive. Like, I don't feel like that is in my best interest at all. And I
Hmm.
and I really, just sitting and thinking about how bad you feel versus being active, doing things that you love, understanding your body's limits, of course. But I think that if we don't find things within our lives that are going to keep us looking forward and looking for those wins and looking to heal, that you can really easily get stuck in that place of identifying with chronic illness and making that your identifying quality. And that's always been probably a fear of mine. I'm like, I don't want to identify as someone who is chronically ill, because I refuse to believe that that is my story.
Hmm.
It's a chapter of my book for sure, my book of life. And I know that it will make me a much stronger, hopefully better human. What I, you know, would I wish it upon anyone to become a stronger human this way? No. But it definitely, it's a part of my story, but I refuse to let it become my life. And I think that's one of the most difficult things within our medical society, especially in the Western world.
Yeah, it's like the doctor says like bed rest for is what is for you, and you're like, no, I think I'll take a second opinion.
100%. And
Yeah.
I've been really fortunate to find amazing practitioners that are really kind of integrating traditional Western medicine with the rest of every other healing and modality that there is, and be really good integrative medicine doctors
Hmm.
that understand that I was a professional athlete, and I'm probably never going to be the person that sits still. And within that realm, we're going to work towards healing. But I'm, understanding that what works for one person probably might not work for someone else. It might. You always want to try different, finding the right path. But I always say, like when I would blow a knee, for instance, it's like if you do A, B, C, and D, you will heal and you'll get better. With chronic illness, unfortunately, it almost feels like you're a lab rat sometimes. I mean, I've been studied by doctors all over the world because I have a severe electromagnetic frequency sensitivity, EMF.
Really?
I had to live in an RV that was not connected to electricity and literally would have to put on like lead gloves and a lead
Really?
blanket to use my computer. So I was writing like $1 million real estate contracts with lead gloves on in an RV that, I mean,
Did the EMF sensitivity arise before or after the Lyme?
about a year into the Lyme. Yeah.
That's fascinating that I'm so happy you mentioned that because I had a guy on a few weeks ago talking about EMF, and he sent me what he calls a grounding bag, which
Yeah.
is a bag of a specific type of crystals and rocks. And I keep it by my bed now
Mhm.
so that basically what it does is the 5G or the Wi-Fi, if you
Yeah.
will, that puts out a certain frequency.
Mhm.
And the idea is that the grounding bag, it takes the frequency in, and then once the frequency passes through the crystals, it emerges again as a more natural waveform.
I'm gonna have to look into that. That is amazing.
I'm gonna make a note to send it to you right
Thank
now.
you. Yeah, I mean,
Mhm.
I still am, it is so it's such a rare but unfortunately becoming more common issue because of the amount of 5G and I mean LED light bulbs. Like everything that we're surrounded by is, you know, different types of electricity are dirty or clean. Like there's so much that can affect you. But I mean, I still usually end the day after using my computer and phone with electrical burns on my hands almost every day.
Wow.
And
By the
this,
way, I want to say rad hand tattoos.
thank you. They're
Super cool.
definitely a little, I mean, you can see they're very upset at the moment, but it gets much worse than this.
I was actually in the tattoo shop the other week, and the artists in there, they know that I have a lot of like, they know about my podcast, and they know I have a
Yeah.
lot of like healing modality people on, and they actually asked me this very question. They said, "What do you think about like 5G? Do you unplug your Wi-Fi at night?" And
Yes.
I told him, I said, I'm learning. I'm kind of new to learning about this, but I've had guests on that tell me to be aware of this stuff. And I just got a grounding bag. I keep it by my bed. If I'm sitting on the computer all day, I bring the grounding bag over here and I put it on the
Oh,
desk
that's
with me.
wonderful.
Yeah. So
I
thank you
think
for bringing that up.
no, I mean, it's been one of the worst symptoms of my illnesses. I mentioned that, my body basically attacks the sheath around my nerves. So
Hmm.
I have all of these exposed nerve endings that are basically getting fried by the radiation of technology or Wi-Fi. So
Yeah.
yeah, like I mean, there's one guy, I believe his name is Jack Cruz. I know he's
Okay.
like the leading expert on EMFs in the world, and he actually lives in El Salvador now. And
Hmm.
gosh, I just heard him on Rick Rubin's podcast actually talking about EMFs, but it's something that I think is slowly becoming an awareness. But I
Hmm.
think over the next decade, we're really, really going to there's going to be a lot more health issues popping up because of it. And there's definitely measures that you can take, that are pretty simple, like turning, you can get these little plugs with timers on it so that your Wi-Fi automatically turns off every night. And
Mm.
just making sure everything's unplugged that's near your sleeping space, like creating these safe havens kind of. And I mean, I couldn't even drive a car that was made before like 2000 when I was at my worst, because I mean I had a tricked out really cool Range Rover. I was doing so great at real estate at the time when I got sick, and then
Mm-hmm.
I developed this illness and I realized that, or the sensitivity, and I realized that when I was getting in my car, I was starting to get such severe muscle spasms that I couldn't, my hands would cramp shut and I literally couldn't move them.
Was your Range Rover like one of those ones with like the whole touch screen and
Oh
like
yeah,
GPS integrated and everything is digital touch screen and all that?
100%.
Are you driving like a 1989 like Mustang now?
I do have a really cool, it's 2010 Mercedes, like the basic G-Wagon. It's
Mhm.
basically like a tank that I drive around, but it has no tech in it.
Yeah, I
And
love that.
I mean it has become one of my safe havens. Like I know
Mhm.
that I can, I'm a realtor. I'm in my car a lot.
Yeah,
So I have
I tell people I've worked in the film business for a while and I tell people don't worry about your car unless you work in finance or real estate. Then it's kind of like part of your uniform.
I'm like, it's basically my second office. So it took a long time for me to really understand like what my own tolerances were, and what car would support that, along with what type of house I was in. I at the time when I moved into the trailer for about 6 months, and when I was able to move out, it was because I bought a property that was built in 1890. It was brick. It had very simplistic electricity. I had it tested. We're lucky. I'm very lucky. Once again, I found an electrician that is very well versed in EMF sensitivities and understanding dirty electricity and how we can basically create, safe places within our environments. But even
What kind of tests are done to like can you talk about that a little bit?
actually, yeah, you can actually get EMF meters online.
Hmm.
Um, and I mean, they're pretty accurate in terms of, the nicer of one you get, the more advanced it is in the types of electricity and radiation that it will test for. But I mean, it's incredible that you can literally walk around your home and it'll show you like where dirty electricity is, where there's high levels of EMF. Um, and then an electrician that is aware of these things can really help you to mitigate. And at least, I mean, we all the reality is we all live in 2024 in cities for the most part, and all of our neighbors, everyone's on phones, everyone's on using
Bluetooth.
everything. So that is a reality that we live in.
Hmm.
But if we can minimize our exposure to EMFs, to making sure there's not mold in our homes, to making
Hmm.
sure that we're creating as safe environments as we possibly can. And that's
Hmm.
something, it even like the materials that are used in homes. Like that's something that as a developer, I've become extremely passionate about.
I
And
love that.
just with my clients in general is really understanding that, your home is probably where you're spending the most amount of time. So,
Hmm.
how is your home environment supporting your health? And if you're not looking for things like mold, or, if you have really, really bad electricity and EMFs in your home, like eventually those are things that if you have a weakened immune system, the word I brought up earlier is toxic burden. Like our bodies are so resilient and they're built to withstand a lot. But when I look back at my past personally, I'm like, okay, yes, I had some adverse childhood trauma. I had severe, injuries through skiing that put me in the hospital multiple times. I had, like I said, breast implants. I had a neck surgery, like all of these things that you don't necessarily think oh, I got really bad black mold poisoning. Like all of these things that you don't necessarily put together because
Hmm.
you're just getting over one and then moving on with your life. But when
Yeah.
I look back, I'm like, I understand why I pushed my body to the point where my bucket, my toxic burden, could no longer withstand anything else. It had to boil over. And when it
Hmm.
did, I mean, it really did. Like
You
I think
mentioned
it did hit the fan.
you mentioned childhood trauma in that, and some people, I think a lot of people don't realize, but one of the things, I think there's even a book called this, called The Body Keeps the Score.
Oh, it's such a good book.
You
Highly
know, and
recommend.
that trauma, a lot of people think it's exclusively like emotional or psychological, but it's actually in the body. Um,
I
Also,
completely agree with that. And
you
it's been one of the
mentioned,
biggest things for me.
you said you had breast implants. If you don't
Yeah.
mind me
Yeah.
asking, does that, are you implying that you had them removed?
Yes. So I basically, there is my immunologist, as we were really getting to the bottom of what my immune system was doing. He had a specific test that would, and I actually had to get the implanted discs in my neck removed as well. So I,
Really?
yeah, I had to have them removed, and I had my spine fused.
Is that
Um,
because of like the material that they were made out of?
yeah.
What was it,
So
like a plastic or a heavy metal?
So I had really high levels of like a plastic polymer in my system, and I had really high levels of cobalt. And that was
Whoa.
those are the two things that a silicone breast implants and these secure C discs, which are amazing. Like for anyone that doesn't have health issues, I mean, the difference between having a synthetic disc that felt like my own neck, like I healed and it literally felt better than I could have ever imagined,
You
to
got a new
getting
neck.
fused. Like a fusion sucks. So this is
Really?
real, it's not something that I'm saying to avoid, but with
Do
breast
you
implants,
lose like range of motion and stuff with the fusing?
I have really good range of motion still, luckily, but I still have quite a bit of pain. And because of my electric sensitivity, it actually kind of feels like a lightning rod in my neck.
Oh my
That's
gosh.
something I'm talking to my neurosurgeon about now, is now that my neck is fused on its own, probably getting the metal taken out, because that is like an electric rod in my back. And I
Wow.
and I feel it. So the amount of pain that I have from fusion has been a constant struggle,
Wow.
unfortunately. And when that test came back and he said, my immunologist said, I really think that you need to get your implants removed. It looks to me like your body is attacking them, because you look at autoimmune disease, and basically it's your body getting confused or turned around, and instead of attacking everything that on the exterior that it's supposed to and protect you, it attacks you.
Hmm.
And in whatever, for me it was Hashimoto's and CIPD, small fiber neuropathy. um uh, the list goes on, but this specific test showed that I had really high levels of plastic in my system, and it implied that my body was basically attacking the implants.
Hmm.
So that's when I was connected with this incredible surgeon in California, Dr. Kevin Brenner, and I would anyone that's having strange issues like chronic fatigue, brain fog, chronic pain, if you're getting sick a lot, these are all signs that your body is probably dysregulated in some way. And a lot, oftentimes, unfortunately, it is because of what silicone breast implants are made out of. And if your body doesn't like it, it's going to tell you.
Yeah.
So I
I
found,
know I
and
know
yeah,
uh we have a lot of plant medicine people that come on
I
the
love it.
podcast. And so I actually know a couple medicine sisters who had their implants taken out. And even sitting in ceremony with plant medicine, they kind of got the message like, I don't want this in my body. I don't want this object in my body.
Yes.
And yeah, I actually have a family member as well who does not do plant medicine, but she has implants, she has breast implants, and it's messing up her like her back because the muscles and her body is kind of attacking one of them but not the other one, and it's everything is becoming asymmetrical, and it's actually a big problem. So I actually I don't know a ton about breast implants, but I do advocate for avoiding them or even taking them out if possible.
And they were like, just to be totally transparent, because I think it is a really personal thing for women. It's like it was, I saved up for them my entire ski career. And when I turned 21, that was my gift to myself. I was so like they were a part of me. Like I
Yeah.
wanted them more than anything. So getting them removed was really, emotionally challenging for me. And it
Mm,
was really hard to understand that this was I'm like I'm already like I already lost my health, like now I have to do this too. But
mhm,
I mean, at the end of the day, anything that you can do when when you're not well, anything that you can do to get your body to be in to make a peaceful environment within,
mhm,
you have to do it. And we are very lucky these days if you're someone that is having these issues and you're like, I don't want to lose my implants. They can do fat transfers these days. Like they can take your own fat. And that's not a road that I've gone down, but it's something that you can absolutely, so there are options. But the amount of women that I mean, I think he's doing like 10,000 explants a year right now
oh
from,
wow.
yeah, and he's like the number one doctor fighting the FDA because to look at what they're made out of and why it's making people sick.
And I know a lot of people say, "Oh no, they're safe and they don't leak and this, that, and the other." But I one of the medicine sisters said, like, yeah, I was told they don't leak, but when they were removed, they weighed less.
So they
So,
always say when one of the biggest questions that gets asked is like, did the capsule that your body create around it was was that able to come out? Because that generally has pieces of the implant that have become grown into your body. So
and I know it's a
there's no way.
really it's a really challenging and sensitive topic
For
because
sure.
in our society as well, and we have social media and everything is very image based, and there's so much pressure especially on women to look a certain way, and so
Yeah.
it's a really challenging conversation. But I would just like to say to anyone listening, you're perfect how you are. And
Yeah, it's true.
yeah.
I've learned this journey has taken me through so many body changes. I mean, I gained 80 pounds in almost a little less than 2 weeks. 3
Wow.
summers ago, just because my detox system completely shut down. So
Wow.
the level of inflammation, and I'm 5 feet tall. I weighed 110 pounds. Like my body, I pretty much doubled within 2 weeks.
Wow.
So the amount of, I mean, trauma that goes with chronic illness, with how your body, it's very like we go back to like the body keeps the score. You know, it's such a fine line between okay, this I'm in so much pain and I feel so bad and I've gained weight and I have to like it's very difficult to not turn your own body into the enemy. And
Mm,
it's been a really difficult journey for me because, I think anyone dealing with chronic pain is, you almost feel trapped within your own body because it's something that's unescapable, you really have to do a lot of work to get your pain under control, and that's very difficult. And so under through a lot of therapy, and I do EMDR once a week. I
oh,
have
I love it.
Yeah, I have for years, and
I
it's
did that
been
too.
really that's what I
Yeah.
mean. It's
I do
something
you
that
do you I use a Theratapper. Do you know what that is?
it is it the
It's
little note?
yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's two nodes and I put
Yep.
one in each pocket and they
That's
create a
exactly what I
sensation.
do.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's been again, like I am fortunate that I've had really amazing practitioners around me, and one of my kind of internists said, I really think you should look at doing some EMDR, and I found a therapist that actually like specializes in understanding how I mean, basically nervous system dysregulation and trauma and the trauma of chronic illness. Because
Yeah.
I'm like a firm believer that when you're in pain all the time, when you're sick all the time, we're creating neural pathways in our brains that are triggering whether it's an environment or just waking up in the morning or whatever it may be. Like, we're training our brains that, oh, I'm in pain, oh, I'm in
The pain
pain.
is coming. The pain is coming. And
Exactly.
my therapist likes to say what fires together wires together. It's
Yes.
like if you keep telling yourself that the pain is coming, then it
Yeah.
definitely is going to come.
100%. So I
I,
think
I've I've dealt with chronic migraines actually for my whole
oh,
life. Still trying to crack the code to defeat that.
I get pretty horrific migraines after I do. So I get like a plasma transfusion followed by immunoglobulin infusions, basically to give me some immune system.
Hmm.
And I developed migraines, which is pretty common from getting immunoglobulins. And my level of empathy for anyone that gets, I mean, for chronic pain in general, but migraines, I'm so sorry to hear that because it is absolutely debilitating.
Yeah, and I was relating to what you were saying about people with chronic pain because it's almost like with dealing with constant headaches, it's almost like I begin to fall out of trust with my own body and my own self.
Exactly.
And so it's just something that I'm working through as
Yeah.
well.
I go to a pain specialist, and he basically, I don't have the receptors that work with any opioids, which is great because I'm not addicted to opioids. But it also, when I have 10 out of 10 pain and I can't get it under control, it's pretty much a
Oh,
nightmare.
yeah.
But
Oh.
he actually requires that all of his patients, he's a traditional Western medicine like pain doctor.
Hmm.
He requires that they take a class at least once every other month with him. And
Hmm.
it's all about rewiring the brain through breathing techniques and meditation
Wow.
to basically like have that tool in your toolkit that when I mean he says to really rewire the brain, this is something you need to be doing daily, and it's you use headphones because it's binaural, I think it's called
Uh-huh.
binaural.
Yeah, I
And
think that's right. Yeah.
there's something about the frequency that your brain basically is more receptive to changing these neural pathways. So he recommends like a minimum of 20 minutes a day.
Is there a specific breath technique that he's teaching?
I mean, it's really similar to square breathing. So
Okay.
like in for four, hold for four, out for four, hold for four.
Yep.
But
Yep.
if you go on YouTube and basically type in like binaural nervous system regulating breath techniques or meditations, you can find a ton.
Yeah.
He provided a couple, but when I'm in like a severe flare like yesterday, I stress for me, stress is a huge one. And I work probably like my biggest challenge in healing is that I was trained to from a very young age through skiing and athletics to work extremely hard, and that is, I believe, what's taught me the resilience and the grit that is needed to get through this, but it
Hmm.
also put very, very strongly embedded overworking and people pleasing and getting affirmation through accomplishment. So these are all things that I don't know I would have learned about myself if I had not gotten sick. So it
Mm.
is, like I've learned so much, and again through a really great therapist, and but my biggest issue is that I am a workaholic and I love what I do, but I have to learn how to really listen to my body and become in tune with my body. And when something pushes me over the stress threshold, I mean, I had like a family my grandmother passed, and it was her time. She was 95. But of
Mm.
course, subconsciously, even I think a lot of times I don't even realize how something is affecting me until I wake up the next day or a couple hours later, and my hands are so swollen I can't use them. My joints are all locked shut. Like I woke up yesterday and I could not move my body. I was in so much pain.
Oh my
So
goodness.
that's when I look to, okay, what is my toolkit for getting my body to calm down and we all have the tools, and we live in, a time where we can go on YouTube and Google, like put in, I want meditation for like reducing chronic pain. We have that. And
Yeah.
yesterday I got in front of my red light and I did my breath work, and it calmed my butt, and then did a sauna and
Mm.
really tried to kind of sweat it out, and
Mhm.
it really helped calm my flares down. But
Mm.
understanding that like the things that we might not realize that are stressors in our lives actually are having probably more of an effect on your body than you could really imagine. And
Mhm.
I always say, like, if you're battling something or adversity or trying to make a decision, or uh you know like who you're spending time around, just all of these elements that go into like what is going on in your nervous system. I always say do the heavy and light test. If something My first boss mentor in real estate, he's still one of my mentors and best friends, but he would always say, Athena, is this person making you feel light, or is this person making you feel heavy? Or is this situation, is this client, is this relationship, do you feel heavy every time that you encounter them? Or do you feel light when you walk away? And I feel like we are so good as humans at overcomplicating everything. At least I am, for sure. But when when we really take a look at our environments and the people that are within them and the situations that we're putting ourselves in, and just do a simple like evaluation mentally of what feels heavy and what feels light, and trying to get rid of anything that feels heavy. And obviously, life is like I always say, life is never going to go to plan. I did not plan for this to, I had no idea that my life would do a complete 180. You never know what is coming in your life, but
Mm.
unfortunately, it's there are you are going to face adversity, and if you can understand that and understand what you need personally in order to address adversity or to get through adversity, then you're gonna, you're gonna get through it. And
Mhm.
most likely you're gonna look back and say, yeah, that was horrible, but I learned X, Y, and Z, and I'm that much better of a person because of it. And it
Yeah.
doesn't feel like that, but it really comes, like, I think our subconscious, like, again, when we look at the body keeps the score, you go all the way back through childhood, but our subconscious holds on to so much more than we realize and that we could ever imagine. And unfortunately, that will show up in the body in some way. And I hope that it never gets to this level for anyone. But
Yeah.
you have to understand that, like, every little thing that we do, our subconscious is picking up on, and our body will hold on to that. And for me, like, it's a perfect reminder of how much stress affects my healing, because
Mhm.
I was supposed to show a Nuggets player properties yesterday. I was all geared up and excited. Thank God I have an amazing team that always has my back, but I couldn't get out of bed. I mean, it just
Yeah.
wasn't going to happen. So we have to be aware of our situational environments and how they're affecting us, because they
I
are.
love I love that heavier light test.
Isn't
Is
that
like
easy?
it's
It's
so
simple.
easy and it's like, is this person, it doesn't have to be a person. I guess it could
Yeah,
be anything, but I'm using a
anything.
person as an example. Is this person make after we interact, do I feel heavy or do I feel light? And it's pretty easy to go, if I feel heavy, then bye-bye.
Yeah. And it's so true, like, I think that's one of the best pieces of advice I've ever been given, because it's so simple. And, again, we overcomplicate everything, but if you, like, I'm a big supporter of journaling.
Mhm.
That's been a really big part of my healing journey too, is just getting everything out on paper of what I'm feeling and going through, and the the range of emotion that comes up. I think that it's a really healthy way of getting it out, because I'm not going to sit here and tell, like, say that, everything's, it stinks, but everything's positive. It's like, no, I have days where I'm really angry that this is my reality at the moment. But
Mhm.
you having those tools that you can go to that are healthy ways to get things out. And I think that's another way of really understanding the effect that people or situations have in your life, is journaling and looking back at that and being like, okay, I keep bringing up that this environment or this relationship or this person is making me feel badly about myself, or what, every time I leave, I don't feel good. And it's
Yeah.
like, if we can recognize what aspects of our lives are not pushing us to be our best selves, or helping us to grow and be better, then life is too short. Life is so I say we're resilient beings, but life is so fragile, and it's something that is, you never know what is around the corner. So it's
Mhm.
so important to be, I never learned boundaries personally. Like, growing up, I never learned how to set boundaries. And that's
Mhm.
something I'm just now learning, as I'm 34 years old. And that's something that has definitely contributed to, you know, not be getting well, is because I always say yes to everything. And it's like, say yes to yourself by empowering yourself, to realize that this environment is not good for me, or this person is not good for me, because your body unfortunately will make that decision for you if you don't, and it's
Yep.
most likely going to be in a way that is far worse than anything you could imagine. So please be aware, people. Don't waste your time, your precious breaths, your heartbeats on anything that's not pushing you to be the best version of yourself. And really, allowing your nervous system to not be constantly, like when you're with someone that is makes you feel heavy, they're also most likely making your fight or flight or freeze
Yeah.
kick in, like
Yeah.
our nervous systems pick up on every single thing. And part of being chronically ill has been realizing that my body is pretty much always in fight or flight. And I have to learn how to, train my nervous system that it's okay. And I think that's a tool that whether you're sick or not, everyone needs to be aware of how our actions and affect our nervous systems. And I think it's really easy to do that by checking in internally and just being like, okay, do I have anxiety? Is that heavy? Or do I feel like light and like I can conquer the world after I saw that person? And
Mhm.
that's what you want to flock to.
Totally. Yeah, the body is very resilient, but it has a big challenge in healing itself if you're stuck in fight or flight.
And that I believe has been my biggest challenge and is like what I'm just now really focused on because I
Mhm.
don't think that it's something that is often, really talked about when you're treating medical illnesses. It's really been through talking to functional medicine doctors and therapists and um, I mean, even my psychiatrist luckily is extremely in tune with nervous system dysregulation and how we can get my nervous system to stop constantly being in fight mode. For me, it's
Yeah.
always fight mode. I'm very, like if I'm having a flare, my tolerance for anything is like
You're
you
just like
I mean,
hyper vigilant, like ready to
so
rock.
paranoid, like
Yeah.
it's not a fun way to be. So
Yeah. Now,
really
I want
understand.
to ask you though, through all this, you have managed to find quite a bit of success, right? Like you mentioned that you're showing homes to NBA ballers, and so you do quite well in that, correct?
Yeah.
You
Yeah. Yeah,
um
I do.
are you I'm happy to hear that. And by the way, you have a great attitude. You're smiling this whole time. We're talking about chronic pain and you just have like a beautiful smile.
I'm
Um
grateful for the opportunity, so thank you.
I'm curious, through all the challenges you've had and the kind of triumphs you've had and all that you've learned, do you apply that to your work? Are you helping your clients to build their natural haven that is a healthy home? And you mentioned, materials that you think about as a contractor. So can you talk a little bit about how you apply what you've learned in your journey to your professional world?
Absolutely. So it has completely changed how I approach my job. And I would definitely say like I would not be where I am in my career. I believe like I think we're like top 5% in Colorado, top 10% in the country. Without an amazing support system. So number one is like I have the most incredible people working around with me, and without their support and they genuinely just want me to be healthy and better and will do whatever is needed so that I can take care of myself. And I'm also extremely fortunate that I have a career that I love so much because part of real estate is forming, like, at least for me, it's forming lifelong relationships with my clients. I want to be the trusted resource and advocate and and the go-to for every stage of their life when they need to move. And part of that means that I want to make sure that the environment that I'm putting my client in is not going to be something that could even, you know, create the smallest bit of illness in them. And I always say I'm like a walking mold and EMF detector because if there's mold in a house, my hands will start swelling up. If there's EMFs, I'll know. And, like if we're really close to power lines. So I I approach each client differently, of course, just to make sure that I'm doing so in in a receptive way, because oftentimes when you get off into these realms, some people can still think it's a little woo woo or whatever it may be, but I think that people learn best through storytelling. Like I
Mm.
use my own story and my own experiences. And most of my clients, 99% of my client base is from my sphere. So they're either, people I've known for years or repeat clients or referrals of clients. So I've always been very open about my journey and people have watched me through it. So when I think that a value add that has become so important to me is to create a a trusted like list of vendors of inspectors, like okay, this is who I trust for doing inspections, this is who I trust for doing mold evaluations, this is an electrician that understands EMFs. Like depending on what we find in the initial inspection, I walk them through the report from a standpoint of, hey, we want to make sure that the biggest investment that you're making in your life is something that is not going to, harm your body. And I
Mm.
know that it might not feel like it, and it might not, that might not be on your mind when you're going to buy a house, but we really want to make sure that the property that we're getting you into was, it doesn't have anything in it that's going to contribute to you getting sick. So
Mhm.
if there are signs of microbial growth, yeah, unfortunately, I know you don't want to spend the money to do proper testing, but we need to do it. Because
Mm.
trust me, it's going to cost a lot more down the road in medical bills getting mold poisoning than it would just spending the $1,000 to do it properly now. Or you know, if we're really close to a power line, there are a few communities, unfortunately, that are under some of the biggest power lines I've ever seen. And I just send them resources on what the effects of living in, close range to these power lines is, and then allowing them to make a decision based on that. But I think
Mm.
the biggest thing is just like arming my clients with education and arming them with resources and just creating an awareness that, hey, like I'm an extreme example of what happens when your health doesn't goes wrong, but let's make sure that we're putting you into a home that's going to contribute towards, you being your best and healthiest self. And if you have kids, like people really, really take it seriously then. But it has been something that is always a conversation and will always be. And I'm constantly, trying to learn more and more and more about how I can assist my clients in making sure that we're picking a property that isn't going to be harmful to them, because I think
Mm.
people, I mean, and I'm in Colorado, like there's not a ton of moisture, but the number of properties that we find mold in is outrageous. And it doesn't affect everyone. It's definitely a genetic um trait. Why I think they say like 40% of people get mold poisoning, but that's something that is extremely difficult to combat and
Mm.
something that we can easily avoid by having it mitigated properly, and that you can ask the seller to pay for if there is mold there. So again, it's just educating. And then yeah, when I'm developing properties, my business partner is actually my dad, which is amazing. He was a um he has a background in ecological development, so like understanding how to develop within um making best use of the land and being like aware of the environment. So we're, extremely aware of like where we're sourcing materials from. Like so many, carpet that you get from China is covered in formaldehyde. It's like
Mm,
there are substances that a lot of new construction that's done in a very cheap way, you're having your kid lay on this carpet that is literally covered in toxins, and it's something that is a hard reality because again we're kind of inundated by it, but it's
yeah.
something that I'm definitely promoting in my business on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, amazing. I had some friends who had discovered mold in their apartment and they were like their hair was falling out.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was crazy.
That was
Can you
probably thyroid. I mean, it
can
was
you
probably
share
dysregulating.
like we're getting kind of close to the end of our time, but can you share some other sort of essential elements that you would recommend to people for creating a healthy living environment?
Yeah, absolutely. So a big one is that I think people are starting to become more aware of is blue light, like making sure that you're not exposing yourself to blue light past, sundown if possible, or you're wearing blue light glasses. But if you can buy light bulbs that are either incandescent or just red light, but basically trying to minimize your exposure to blue light, and really get your circadian rhythm in tune with the natural, like when the sun comes up and down. Now I say that and I'm the complete opposite. Unfortunately, Lyme is nocturnal, so I my sleep schedule is completely dysregulated. But
Mhm.
your bedroom, like don't have any LED light bulbs, like change everything out to red light, and it's gonna dramatically help your sleep.
And sleep
Absolutely.
is when you heal.
Exactly. 100%.
Yeah.
Making sure that your house is tested for, like, Colorado's big with, we have a ton of radon gas in our soil. So
Mm.
make sure that if you're buying a home, or if you bought a home and never did a radon test, it's $130. Get it done by a professional. Have a radon test done. Make sure that that's not an element that you're not even thinking about, because it's just a gas in the soil. Um, Honestly, having one of the timers on your Wi-Fi router, it's so easy. You could buy them on Amazon for like $10, and it just turns off your Wi-Fi at a certain time every night, and it reduces the amount. I mean, you don't have Wi-Fi go, plugged in your home anymore, just for your sleep hours. So your body can really get that healing time.
Yep.
With that, I didn't realize this until a couple of years ago, but anytime something is plugged in, it's still creating that electricity that is really not good for us. So unplug as much as you can from around your bedroom and the places you spend the most time in,
Hmm.
and get an alarm clock that's like battery powered the old fashioned way.
So wait, don't put my smartphone right by my head when I sleep.
No, it's been the hardest one for me. I'm like, but what if this? What? No, if you can manage to sleep with it in another room, that's
Hmm.
ideal, but at least put it on airplane mode while you're sleeping.
Yep.
And if you can, like, sleep as far away from your smartphone as possible.
Hmm.
Um, What else? I mean, honestly, like air purifiers, I'm a huge supporter of, if you get the right, an actual good HIPAA filtered air, filtered, that will do the job to make sure you're getting the best air possible, because pollution is horrible, especially
Mm,
in Denver. We get the inversion effect from the mountains.
mhm.
Um, water, Denver also has is notorious for having really high levels of lead in the water.
What kind
So
of filter are you using at your house?
I actually get water, the big jugs delivered,
Gotcha.
and it's alkaline, filtered water. So it's pH balanced. It's really high quality. My did a lot of research into like finding the purest water that was going to be supporting my health,
Hmm.
because I mean the amount of lead that is found in, and I mean all sorts of heavy metals that are found in water is scary. And
Crazy.
I believe it's like I pay $40 a month for having 6 giant tubs of water delivered to me, and it is, I mean, that's a very like tangible, easy, not super expensive way to make sure that everything that you're putting in your body has an effect. Like if you
Yep.
eat organic or local, like obvious locally grown, or local meat, if you're able to do that, it is, I mean, it is terrifying the things that are going into our onto our food. If you really look into it, like we're the only country in the world that allows GMOs, and that's terrifying.
Hmm.
So just having it,
Hopefully that might, I'm hearing rumors that that may be the food
I
situation
hope
may be
so.
changing.
I'm so hopeful.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, you go out, out of the country and you can eat bread and not have like a horrible, if you have a gluten sensitivity, and it's like it
Yeah.
really opens your eyes to how messed up our food is. So
Totally.
having an
Totally.
awareness, like eat, eat local if you can, like eat organic if you can. Obviously, you know, things can be more expensive, but I think when you find locally sourced foods, it actually isn't as expensive as you think it is. And
And you're gonna save on your health bills.
I can tell you, before I was diagnosed, like Lyme disease has always been very controversial. I think it's just now starting to get recognized by insurance. But before I got my autoimmune diagnoses, I spent over 300,000 in 1 year on plasma.
Whoa.
So if that doesn't tell you that you could spend the extra dollar on the organic, or it's like you
Yeah.
when you
Wow.
when your health goes wrong, there's health insurance will do anything they can not to cover things.
I bet. I don't know for me, I don't know if it's placebo or not. It's probably not placebo, but sometimes I just have to say it. The skeptic in me has to say it. But ever since I had his name was Justin Franzen, he was the EMF guy who came
I'm
on the
gonna,
show a few
I'm
weeks
gonna have to
ago.
listen to that. Yeah.
Ever since I had him on, I don't keep my phone by my bed anymore, and I have the grounding bag by my bed, and I feel like I'm sleeping much better.
I swear it, I can tell the difference from when I for like forget, or I like fall asleep before I've put my phone away or put it on airplane mode. I can tell the difference when I wake up in and how my nervous system feels. Like if I wake
Mhm.
up feeling like anxious, it's usually because my phone was near me. So,
Yeah,
again, like red light therapy, I mean, just the benefits, even if you get a very small one and do, like 20 minutes a day in front of red light, making sure that you're sweating in whatever way, like whether that's through a workout or an infrared sauna, like these are all things that you need to be aware of, how to detox your system from the things we're putting in, and how to heal your cells. So like cellular regeneration with red light therapy is incredible. So if you're
Uh,
able to just get a small unit,
yeah.
I do it before bed. You're actually supposed to do it in the morning, but it for some reason knocks me out. So I really, it calms me down at night. I do my meditation at the same time, and I call it habit stacking. Like if you can do as many things at once as possible, like laying in front of a red light while doing your breath work and meditating, that's, you're knocking out the 20 minutes of your day you're getting so much benefit from.
I don't know a lot about red light therapy. What is that doing exactly?
So basically, it's you can get different, I have a medical grade red light, but it's really easy to get really good. I think Juva is one, or Jova, that makes red light, but red light, whatever frequency it emits,
Hmm.
for whatever reason, it is extremely good for cellular repair and regeneration. So
Interesting.
all of the damage that we do to our cells, and there's some research that actually says it contributes to protecting like your telomeres. So
Mm.
that's basically an indicator of how long you're going to live. It's like a little tail on the end of your DNA,
Mhm.
and there's certain things you can do to help stop it gets shorter over its life. But
Mhm.
red light therapy is amazing because it really contributes to cellular repair and regeneration. So
Amazing.
whether if you have an injury, yes, putting it on that injured part as much as you can is huge, but I think just doing it overall every day to help heal our cells, the research behind it's pretty incredible. And I'll honestly, like microdosing. You can buy you can get psilocybin online now. It's crazy.
Mhm.
But my Western medicine doctors even like are fully on board with the healing benefits of psilocybin and microdosing, and that's something that I believe has really helped with nervous system regulation, and it's something that is a little bit newer for me, so I'm not an expert there, but I mean that's something that I would really plant medicine I think is something that can get a bad name just because people have given it the label of, drugs, but it's like, no, these are much better than like an antidepressant from over the counter. Like, we're gonna
Much
take
better than,
that.
yeah, it's much better than actual drugs, which are pills.
Exactly. Exactly. And it's something I think the more open of a mind that you can have to anything that is, with do your research, like really feel comfortable and good about what you're doing and what your routine is. But you have to create, whether you're sick or healthy, like you want to keep yourself healthy. So, what routines can you implement into your day to day that are going to keep you that way? And the more that we can implement, microdosing, red light therapy, making sure you're sweating, making sure you're detoxing and drinking clean water, having as clean a food as you can, creating safe and like safe havens without a ton of blue light and watching TV right before you go to bed. It's like these things have such a more a lasting effect than we could ever imagine. So
Yeah.
the more we can mitigate them, the healthier you're going to be. People, everyone wants to be healthy. I want to be healthy.
I love that you use the word awareness too, because it's like if you can be aware of what you put in your body, if you can be aware of the heavier light test, it
Just little things.
just being more aware is going to bring more vitality into your life, and it's going to help you to listen to your body, and your body will tell you what you need if you allow yourself to be aware of it.
And I don't think that we've, societally learned ever to listen to our bodies. And
Mm.
I think that finding ways of really being able to check in with yourself and evaluate how you're feeling, how you feel after you eat certain things, if you're struggling maybe with food sensitivities, like really start to track these things and start to be in tune with like when you feel your best and when you feel your worst and what you did leading up to that so that you can optimize. It really is like biohacking is you're just optimizing your health. You're figuring out what works for your body and what's an inflammatory agent that you don't need it, that you can
Mhm.
avoid. And I think we can do that by just really being in tune with ourselves. And that's difficult, but it's something that you can easily, if you take 5, 10 minutes a day to just check in with yourself, you will learn so much.
Totally. So, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank
And
you. I could talk to you for days. I was that was went by so quickly.
I know I'm like, gosh, I can't believe it's been over an hour.
We
We could sit here and do another hour so easily.
right?
For anyone listening that wants to find you or maybe get in touch with you or check out what you're doing in real estate, where can people find you?
Yeah, I always say like I am here to be a resource for anyone's healing journey, for the challenges, or if you're interested in real estate, whether it's, in Colorado or outside of Colorado. I've got people everywhere. The easiest way is probably go to my website, which is www.athena, Athena, Brownson, Brownson, Realtor. I think everyone knows how to spell that.com. AthenaBrownsonRealtor.com. It has my personal cell phone number, it's got my email address, and it's also got like a little input form if you want to do that way. But please don't hesitate to reach out, and if I can support anyone in any way, then that's my purpose of being ill, is like I want to help other people get through their challenges too. So please don't hesitate.
Beautiful. Thanks so much for coming on, and we'll leave it there.